In this video, I will be covering clutch cable replacement and adjustment for the Kawasaki Vulcan 900. So let's get started by removing the clutch cable. The clutch cable, of course, starts at the clutch lever and it runs down through one loop right here, down inside, through another metal loop right here, where it crosses over to the other side of the bike over top of the radiator hose. And on this side of the bike, you'll see the clutch cable come down and there's an adjustment right here, a fastener holding it in with some other cables. And the clutch cable runs down past the brake mechanism where it comes to an end right there. And this little swing arm is actually what operates the clutch underneath the clutch cover. So the first thing that you're going to want to do to remove the cable is you want to add as much slack to the cable as you can, just to make it easier to work with the cable while pulling it off of the bike. So to do that, I'm going to loosen this stopper nut right here with my 12mm wrench. There's a 10mm nut right here if you need to put your 10mm wrench on there. Slide this rubber boot out of the way, or slide it down a bit, and you can get your 10mm on, and then you can break the 12mm nut loose then. And you're gonna wanna put it all the way to the bottom. And then after that, you can pull this top boot up, and then you're gonna wanna screw this adjuster in as far as you can, and this will add as much slack to the cable as possible. Now you will notice already, if you look at your clutch, that it's definitely loose. The next place that the clutch has an adjustment is up here at the handle. And what you want to do is you want to loosen this keeper all the way against this adjustment screw. And then pulling the cable back a little bit, I can get some movement started here. And once you are all the way in, you'll just want to back it out until you can line up the slots right here. So there's a slot on the keeper screw and there's a slot on the adjustment. And you want to do that so that way you can slide the cable on out. And after you slide the cable out of that, the handle will fall forward. And you can simply just give a little wiggle. And the clutch cable is now free up above. With a flat blade screwdriver, you can come in here and get this clip opened up, which will allow you to pull just the clutch cable out, and then you can pop it back into place for now. Next, you'll want to go ahead and loosen the nuts down here that hold the clutch cable in place right before attaching to the clutch arm, and for that, you'll need a 12mm wrench. You can push the clutch cable then to allow you to loosen the nut on the other side. And you're just going to want to loosen the nut over here until it comes off of the end of the keeper. There, it looks like I'm free now. I went ahead and pulled the cable quite a ways in this direction to give me plenty of slack down here where it attaches in. And now I just need to move the cable inward slightly, and then it should be able to slide out of the side of this swing arm. Just like that. The cable is now free and you can carefully slide it out from the motorcycle.
To pull the cable out, first begin by pulling the bottom half of the cable past the rear brake and the exhaust pipes. As you can see in the video, I get the bottom half free, and then I will switch to pulling from the top of the motorcycle by the clutch lever. Just take your time and slowly try to fish the cable up through, making sure to not get caught up on the radiator hose or either of the two metal loops that the cable is ran through. And just like that, you've got your clutch cable removed.
Before installing the new cable, some people recommend putting some lubricant in there. So we're going to go ahead and shoot a little WD-40, just a small amount, and then we're going to run the cable just a little bit to work the lubricant in there. And you can also do the same thing at all of the other joints. So the center joint right here. And again, work the cable a little bit. And then we got one spot at the bottom to shoot some in. And now we're ready to install it. Installing the new cable is almost as easy as removing the old one. You're just going to want to feed it through from up above, the end right down through here, and you're going to want to look and find the loop right here. You can see it just off the end of my finger. And you're going to feed the cable right on through there, and of course leaving part of it up here. Again, make sure to feed the cable through this bracket right here, and you'll have to kind of easily work through the adjuster because it's kind of bulky. So just carefully fish it through there. One of the first things you can do with the new cable installed is go ahead and open this plastic bracket back up if you closed it. And then go ahead and feed the cable into the holder piece. And you'll want to make sure that this adjustment is just above it. With that in place, you're going to want to carefully fish your clutch cable into the similar position it was in before. So we're going to need to get the end of the new clutch cable into the swing arm, and that's going to be very similar to how we took it out. So I'm going to go ahead and move it backwards with the piece here, and I'm going to push the cable up underneath and try to fish it in. And just like that. And you're going to want to make sure that you get that metal collar into the hole on that. And then you can carefully swing it around. And then next we're going to put the cable in through this holder piece, and we're going to carefully maneuver the cable over here so that way we can get this bolt to slide through that hole like it was before. And then of course put the nut on. So once the bolt is in, you can slide the nut on this side on, and you'll want to screw it on until it's just all the way on the bolt, and then you're going to want to snug it up from this side. And again, using your 12mm wrench, little baby turns. You have to flip the wrench upside down each time in order to get it turned. You don't want to tighten this too much. It just needs to barely be snug. Once you have both of these nuts snugged down on both sides of this, you'll want to just visually inspect and make sure that the end of the cable is in the swing arm and that your boot's straight and everything's straight to go. So once you get the clutch installed and pull it, it's pulling the cable straight. The next step is installing the cable on the top side. And again, you want to make sure that your adjustment up here is screwed as far in as possible, and that you have the grooves going this direction lining up with the slot right here, so that way you can slide the cable in later. Before we do that though, we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of grease around here just to lubricate up the end of this cable to prevent it from wearing as quickly from all of the clutch movement. So we'll just put a generous amount of grease on the end of this cable and on the stopper. And then the first step is actually fishing the cable into the handle. So you'll just need to go in from the bottom and then let it swing around like this. Let the clutch handle close, and then you should be able just to very gently pull, and you should be able to get the clutch in place. With the clutch cable loosely installed, you're going to want to just unscrew this piece out just a couple times. You don't want to remove all of the slack from the cable just yet, but you do want to unscrew this just a couple turns, and then you can tighten down the stopper nut. And then we're going to actually remove the remaining slack from the cable from the adjustment on the other side of the bike. And we're going to go ahead and remove the remaining slack from the clutch cable by adjusting this. And to do that, you just simply unscrew this large upper adjustment, and then every once in a while you're going to check the tension. And what you want to go for is just the smallest little bit of slop in the cable up above. Once you start taking the tension out of the clutch cable, you're going to notice that it's getting tighter right here. And you basically want to remove as much slack until you just got enough room to slide maybe a couple quarters in there, about an 1/8 inch in there. And once you have about an 1/8 inch of slack before you really feel the weight of the clutch starting to engage, mine's about right there, I can really feel the weight, then you will want to tighten up the stopper nut next to the adjuster. All I have to do is tighten up this keeper nut to be up against the bottom of the adjustment. So you can kind of get it hand tight, and then you want to twist it with a wrench maybe, and just tighten it up against the adjustment. Doesn't have to be super tight. If you need to make an adjustment to your clutch, you can also do that up here later on if you decide it needs to be a little tighter. And all you do is you're going to loosen the keeper nut, unscrew the adjustment, and then tighten the keeper nut back down. And that will remove even more tension from the cable. And to add slack, you of course do the opposite. Tighten in the adjustment, tighten the keeper screw, and then you'll have more slack. Again, you want to adjust it until it's about an 1/8 inch of slack. If you take too much slack out of the clutch cable and you don't have any slop in it whatsoever, you might actually be slightly disengaging your clutch. And that is detectable by if you go out and ride and you shift gears hard or accelerate hard and you feel the engine slipping, then you know you don't have enough slack in your clutch cable. So as you can tell, mine is just about perfect. I could slide a couple quarters in there and would be good. Lastly, you're just going to want to visually inspect the clutch cable and make sure that it's routed correctly, make sure that it's not going to be touching any moving parts, and go ahead and slide up these little rubber boots. That way they're in place, protecting the ends of your cable. And from there, you can actually use the clutch, do a visual inspection, and make sure that it's actuating the clutch lever correctly, and you should be good to go.
As always, stay safe out there and happy riding.